I'm running for president to tackle our nation's crushing debt and deficit load. It is out of control, it's irresponsible, and we've got to tackle that big challenge with real solutions and real leadership. And we got to get this economy going again and growing jobs. We were telling the truth all across this country this week about our real challenges and what it's really going to take to fix it. And then we came to New York City, the home of the finance industry and Wall Street, to tell them a hard truth as well. No more bailouts. We got to get back to the point where markets and people's good idea and good work determine success and failure. We need to make sure we have a president who will step forward and have the courage to tell the truth and lead on these issues that are going to make or break the future of our country. President Obama won't, I will. And I hope that you'll join our effort. Thanks for coming to Pawlenty.com. I hope you'll join our team and come back often.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Tim Pawlenty.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I sure appreciate it. Good morning. I was very interested to see this depiction of George Washington back here. It reminded me of a news account that I saw recently where they found the diary of the individual who was in front of the boat at the Delaware crossing. And as the story goes, I was excited to read the newspaper account. They expected that this person would have recorded some profound statement by George Washington as he stepped into that boat on that historic day. And as the diary account reflects, he stepped into the boat, he kicked the gentleman in the front of the boat in the rear end and said, you know, hey, Rick, or whatever his name was, move your blank over and don't tip the boat. I think if he were alive today, he'd say to the United States Congress, quit tipping the boat with this debt and deficit that is drowning our nation and suffocating this American spirit. I want to thank you for being here this morning with that in mind. I also want to share with you a couple of thoughts about this organization, Strong America Now. It's a great label, a great title for this organization. If we're going to have a stronger America, we're going to need a stronger and better president of the United States. Barack Obama doesn't have an economic plan or a deficit reduction plan. All he has is a campaign plan. And he's broken his word to the people of the United States. When he ran for president, he stood in Iowa and said, vote for me and I'll do health care reform. And he was against the individual mandate. He was against the government taking it over with respect to just doing it on a partisan basis. He said he'll do it with Republicans. He said he would focus on cost containment. Did he keep his promise? And then he got elected, and just a couple of months into office, after he was aware of the economic collapse, he said, I commit to reduce the deficit by half in his first term as governor, or president, first term as president. You know what he did? He's tripled it. Did he keep his promise to America? And then he said as a senator, you know what? If you raise the debt ceiling, it will be an example of failed leadership. Now he's the chief champion of raising the debt ceiling. Has he broken his promise to America? Yes. So we're going to need to chart a different and better course, and this organization puts forward the idea of waste reduction, which everybody strongly supports. But I want you to know, like so many of the issues in this race, Republican candidates will stand before you and say, I'm for reducing taxes, I'm for reducing spending, I'm for school reform based on accountability and choice, and I'm for market-based health care reform, and I'm for being strong on defense and being tough on terrorism, and on down the list, and it's going to sound very similar. But an important question for you is going to be, who's actually done this? Who has the skills and the ability and the record to actually do it, not just talk about it, because the hour is late. We've had enough politicians talking. We need results. Our country is sinking and drowning in debt, and we need to get this turned around. I'm running for president because I've got the record and the experience and the results to get it done. So on this issue and many others, I've already done it. In Minnesota, I brought Lean Six Sigma to state government. We brought forward leaders in our administration who brought this practice, trained their executives within their agencies and departments, and guess what? It works tremendously. The processes were faster, the results were better, the process was more efficient, and we began to make government less wasteful and more efficient. So I'm going to be proud when I'm done with my remarks to sign the pledge to join the Strong America Now and make the commitment, if I'm president, to do that. But there's more work that's also going to have to be done, and I want to share a few thoughts with you regarding our economy and deficit and debt reduction more broadly. We need to have an economy that's growing, and what we have an economy now, it's sputtering, it's growing, if at all, at an anemic level. So the other day, I went to Barack Obama's former place of employment, the University of Chicago, which was, by the way, the home of Milton Friedman at one time, but I gave my economic plan, the most detailed, most forward-looking, most pro-growth plan of any candidate in the race at the University of Chicago, and we said we're going to have a big, aggressive, bold goal for this country for economic growth. And I said 5% should be the goal. And I was criticized by the left. They said it's too aggressive, it's too bold, it's too difficult. Well, John Kennedy didn't stand before the United States and say, you know, let's have a space program that's going to go to the clouds or maybe to the atmosphere. He said, let's go to the moon. And so 5% is aggressive, but we can do it. And if China can have 5% growth, and India can have 5% growth, and Brazil can have 5% growth, then the United States of America darn sure can have 5% growth. But we got to have a plan to do it. So we called for cutting business tax rates from 35% to 15%. We also called as part of that to clean out all the special deals, or most of them, under the banner of that tax reduction, so we don't have the special deals, cronyism, exemptions, deductions, and credits, so everybody gets their little special deal if you've got the right lobbyist. We want markets to determine success, and we want your ability to connect with customers and consumers to determine your success if you're a business, not your connections to your congressman or woman. We also called for making the individual tax system flatter, simpler, fairer, take the 6 tax rates that we currently have and reduce them down to just 2, 10 and 25%. That helps not just families and individuals, but it also helps the small businesses that are formed as pass-through entities that provide most of the jobs going forward. But we also realize this is not more than just about taxes, so we called for spending restraint and a constitutional amendment to force the politicians in Washington, D.C. to balance the budget. We also called for energy reform so that we have lower and stable energy prices by producing more of it in the United States of America. And then we need to have real health care reform, not the phony, government-centric, top-down, mandate-laden, bureaucratically staffed Obamacare, but Republican and conservative and common-sense health care reform where consumers are in charge of the decisions for them and their families, not the government. And we also need to have free trade in this country, but I'm for free trade, but I'm not for being stupid. So we got to make sure that we have free trade and give our exporters and businesses in this country fair access to the world markets. But when we see those countries that cheat and don't follow the rules that have been agreed to, we need to have the strength and the courage to look them in the eye and call them on it and get their behavior so we have free trade, but also fair trade. And I also came to Iowa on the spending side and announced my campaign for president and said, no more sacred cows. And I know that there are issues sensitive to various parts of the country all over, but I'm running for president because we got to have the courage to call out the real challenges and put real specific solutions on the table. So we looked the people of Iowa in the eye and said, I understand what's going on in the ethanol industry. I'm from an ethanol and agricultural state, but it's time to say, and I was the first one in the national campaign to say it, we're going to phase out the ethanol subsidies over time. We went down to Florida, and we told the seniors and others what it's really going to take to fix Social Security. And I won't go through it all, but it's going to say to the next generation, the ones coming into the workforce, in light of increasing life expectancies, we're going to have to gradually raise the retirement age over time. I'm sorry, but we're in such a big hole, we have to do that. We're going to have to say, to means test part of it. Social Security. Not for anybody who's middle income or lower income, and I don't like means testing because it sets off class warfare, but we're in such a big hole. We have to look people in the eye and say everybody's going to have to be part of the solution. So going forward under my plan, if you're wealthy, you're not going to get as big or much or any cost of living adjustment in your Social Security as if you're middle income and poor, you will. Now, I've talked to people all over the country on this, and they're okay with that. Now, we're going to have similar solutions in Medicaid and Medicare and down the list, but under my plan, we'll have a balanced budget, particularly if you include the Lean Six Sigma part of it within that time frame, and we'll have a stronger America now, and I appreciate your commitment to that goal.